Hey everybody, Randall Cornett here, and I have a very special guest. Helped me spend quite a long time on this DD. We spent pretty much the majority of the last 2 weeks kind of pouring our blood, sweat, and tears into this. And I got to preface the video by saying, all of this is pretty much based off of the information that we can see, and it's just our theory. So understand that when watching the video. But I have a really special guest. I got AMC Bigums. If you don't know him, he's been on Jackson Hunter's channel. He's had several successful Reddit DDs that what I would consider have gone viral in terms of the AMC community. So it was quite a pleasure to have him come on board and help me connect some of these puzzle pieces together. So what originally started started me on this journey was basically looking into, legal things that have come from short selling, illegal short selling, et cetera, et cetera. And it kind of led me into one of the factors was flex options, which led us here. So we wrote this DD for you guys, and I'm going to preface, it's going to be a little bit of a longer, there's some clips that we're going to play that kind of demonstrate what we're talking about. So we'll play those. So, grab something to drink. It's going to be a banger. So we'll jump right into it. We titled this The High Stakes Room. And Bigums, I appreciate you being here, man. Thanks you so much for helping me with this.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're going to try and dive into the information. So this isn't, because it's already going to be a long video, so we don't want to just talk too much. So we're going to jump right into it. Okay, so we're talking about the high stakes room. Now, what is the high stakes room? Imagine you're walking into a casino and you have $100 million. You sit down at the table, you talk to the dealer and you say, hey, you push your chips to the middle, or your cash to the middle, and you say, hey, I'm ready for some chips. The dealer looks at your $100 million and tells you it's pretty much cute and laughs you off the table. At this table, what you failed to realize, there was a sign that said, there was a $2 billion minimum to come and play, right? This is a $1 billion table. And this is what we're talking about, and that is called ISDA. And I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the movie The Big Short. Here's a little clip that kind of talks about, it gives you a perfect example of what we're talking about here. So we're going to play this.
JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase.
Okay.
JP Morgan Chase.
Stop saying JP Morgan Chase.
I got a good feeling about this.
Just a meeting, though, It's just a meeting. It's like people have meetings all the time, People drink their coffee, they have a meeting.
Brownfield Funds?
Yes.
Hey.
Hello.
Ted.
Chris.
Chris.
I'm on Ted's desk.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm Charlie. Geller.
Jamie Shipley. Hi. Yeah, we're so excited to get set up on your trading platform.
Cool. Here, have a seat a second.
All right.
So, Ted had asked me to do some meeting prep, but I couldn't find any marketing material on you guys.
Oh, we just moved here from Boulder.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, can we see some of your offering documents?
Well, Brownfield is its own money.
It's our money. Yeah.
Well, can you tell us how much you manage?
Of course, we're doing 30 million right now, but we started 4 years ago with 110,000.
Wow.
So as you can see, that's pretty phenomenal returns.
We want to get an ISDA agreement with JP Morgan so we can deal in long-term options.
That's really cool.
I guess I'll just pause right here, Bigums, because I think this is a good point to explain. So you can see right here, the ISDA agreement is an agreement that lets an investor sit at the big boy table and make high-level trades not available to, stupid amateurs, aka dumb money.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
But you guys are under the capital requirements for an ISDA.
By how much?
How much? 1,470,000,000. So, a lot.
This makes us look bad, doesn't it? That we didn't know what the capital requirements were?
It's not great. But keep up those returns and give us a call way down the line, Okay?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Have a good one, guys.
Thank you, Chris. What?
And I don't know, I can't hear it. Whatever level he's saying, whatever the number he said, I have looked it up, and the ISDA requirements to join them has gone up since that time. So whatever number he said, obviously it's just a movie, but it's an extremely high number to be able to sit
Yeah,
here.
so he said that the Brownfield Fund said they had 30 million, and he said that you're, a billion plus short. And again, that requirement, like Bigums just said, is has gone up since then. So actually, so you can see where we're at right now. So if you want to cover the what is ISDA section, so I give you a chance to speak. Sorry, I feel like I'm just talking over you.
No, you're fine, man. Basically, what ISDA is, it's an international swap and derivative association. It's worldwide. They actually have offices in New York, London, Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Singapore. Singapore, I believe, is the last one. But basically, what it is the super rich are able to trade with these ISDA agreements. You don't have to go through an exchange. It's a person-to-person agreement. It is a contract written between the two, whatever, like the flex options, whatever they're exchanging, the swap options or anything like that. But it's an agreement between the two that once they both sign it, that's it. It doesn't go to an exchange. It doesn't go through an exchange. It's processed just between the two participants.
Yeah, the best way to put it is like it's a handshake OTC transaction. Obviously it's not literally a handshake, but that it's like and the way that I'm taking this is like it's like a backroom deal. It's like you and I, Bigums, we want to work together. Let's trade. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So all of this is based off of the ISDA master agreement, and so there's a lot of information in here. I'm not going to read the whole entire document, right? Because it's several pages. But if you guys are interested in this, it is sourced in the DD, which is linked in the description. But basically, everything there, the way that when you are working with a company and you're going to initiate in this, it all is based around this master agreement. And
then this master agreement, this master agreement will be cleared by ISDA, so it doesn't go to SIBO or the CCCO. That's the difference between these ISDA contracts and a normal option. Is that other options will go through the OCC to be cleared. ISDA clears these options and posts them.
Yeah, so they're like a one-stop shop for the mega rich. That's the most simple way to put it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what we're going to pull up here is the requirements for an ISDA agreement, master agreement, okay? And so we have a little video. I'm going to play this video again. Remember I said there's going to be some videos, guys. So let's go ahead and watch this. Actually, after
Grammarly does more than catch
after
error.
the advertisement. So it was not. I'm in the incognito mode, so my ad block's not working. But that's okay. So here we go.
The ISDA Master Agreement is a document outlining the terms of an over-the-counter derivatives transaction between two parties. This document serves as a standard agreement in these transactions and is published by the International Swaps and Derivatives Association. The ISDA Master Agreement applies to all future transactions between the two parties, which means that they do not have to renegotiate the terms before entering into new transactions together. Nevertheless, the parties can add or alter the terms of the Master Agreement by using a document called an ISDA schedule. There are no exchanges or intermediaries in the over-the-counter derivative.
So I think this is a good point to kind of pause on right here. Is no exchanges, no intermediaries. So it's directly between the two parties, completely off exchange. Like I said, it's like a backroom deal. Would you agree, Bigums?
Yeah, so exactly like we were saying before, they don't have to go through the CCO or go to SIBO. ISDA's allowed to clear their own things, which obviously, if nobody's watching ISDA, it's basically like we're relying on them to be truthful, just like the FTDs. And how often does that happen?
Yeah. So we're going to continue the video here.
Derivatives transactions, since they are conducted exclusively between the two parties. The huge values and volumes in the OTC market made traders especially cautious. As a way to alleviate these fears, the ISDA Master Agreement was created in 1985. The ISDA Master Agreement is especially valuable in that it contains clearly worded definitions of all contract terms for both parties, and the recurring transaction terms created by the agreement can save both parties considerable time and legal fees. The ISDA Master Agreement is available in two versions, the 1992 and 2002 documents. These versions have various differences. The 2002 ISDA agreement uses a closeout method, whereas the 1992 version uses the market quotation loss method. In calculating the closeout amount, the parties agree on a fair compensation for the payments and deliveries that have or could have been earned by the terminated transactions. The market quotation method has the parties review the average of quotations from leading swap market dealers and agree on a fair compensation for the early termination of the contract. The 2002 revision made a reduction in grace period and added a set-off provision. It also included a new termination event stipulation to account for unanticipated and uncontrollable disasters, such as natural or man-made catastrophes, labor riots, and acts of terrorism. The ISDA Master Agreement is an invaluable security measure for traders dealing in over-the-counter derivatives.
Okay, so we can conclude that this is like I said, the big boy table when it comes to over-the-counter derivatives. And we'll go back to the DD here. Do you have anything that you want to add on to that, Bigums?
Ah, I like that video.
Okay.
Done it pretty well.
So an ISDA Master Agreement is a standard document regularly used to govern OTC derivative transactions. So we just learned that. There are no exchanges or middle parties since they are done exclusively between the two parties. The agreement itself is a standard, but is accompanied by a customized schedule and sometimes a credit support annex, also known as a CSA, both of which are signed by the two parties in a given transaction. All right, so now that we know what basically CSA works or what it is and how it works, we're talking about flex options, which is basically the premise of the video. So flex options, they're non-standard options that allow both the buyer and the seller to negotiate various terms. They can basically name their exercise style, strike price, and expiration date, as well as other features and benefits. It gives them the ability to trade on a larger scale with expanded, so larger, or in some cases, eliminated position limits, so no position limits. And so again, just banging this home, they're a unique type of option that we as retail investors do not have access to. And this is really something that the big boys take advantage of, right? And they flow by a unique set of rules, and we'll go over those rules right now. Do you want to talk about the flexibility here, Bigums?
Yes. I think what we should cover first is what he means by the unlimited positions is if you have a flex option contract, it's still 100 shares for the options, but you can have an unlimited amount of contracts attached to those options. And basically, if you look here at you're at the chart here. So now, if you look at the chart here, it says the expiration date could be up to 15 years of the trade date. So at the time of the agreement, and the way that the agreement works is once they agree on the terms, it's still posted by ISDA. So from that posting date is what they mean by that trade date. But yeah, obviously, man, if you look at it, they can do anything. They can do the strike price. Obviously, we can do all that too, but we can do
custom expirations, unlimited position limits in terms of the amount of shares per, or, contracts inside of the option.
Premiums.
And then again, like I said, it's just, the best way to put it, I have to say, this is probably just, it's a custom option. Like whatever your heart desires, you can craft an option out of it.
100%. Yeah, exactly. 100% customized option for sure.
And again, 15 years from the trade date, they can extend the expiration date, which is highly unique to me. I just can't believe it's done. So we're going to look at a flow chart of the OTC flex options. And one thing that we want you to notice is that how they bypass the CBOE and instead go to ISDA, where ISDA then posts the trade. If it's listed as an option, that is. And then it's sent to the OCC for clearing. But in these unlisted terms, it is cleared by the two parties that write the agreement. So, Bigums, do you want to break that down? Right, this chart right here that we're kind of looking at?
Yeah, so basically on our options, if you look at, you go through the bottom, so it would get cleared by the broker, it get cleared by the OCC. I'm sorry, it'd be cleared by CBO exchange, and then after that, it gets cleared by the OCC. And if you look at the other way, instead of the OCC, ISDA clears it because the two party members that wrote the agreement in the first place, obviously they wrote all the terms, they wrote everything, and that CSA shows that they have the collateral to pay it, so then they can just close it out without going through an exchange.
Which in turn means what? No price impact.
Exactly.
So when we're looking at this, okay, flex options, they were created in 1993 by the CBOE. The options is basically, flex options are built to be traded OTC for the majority of the market. And they definitely do give the customers much more flexibility, as we've already kind of depicted. But now they're trading on other exchanges as well, not just the CBOE as, itself. But now, so we understand what flex options are. And now let's look what married puts are. And we're going to tie all this together.
All right, so basically what a married put is when you hold a long position in a stock and you continuously buy at the money put options of the stock. And what that does is create synthetic longs, and it protects the price from being depreciated.
Okay. So that's just one method along with flex options. And then we have one more. So we have synthetic puts. And synthetic puts, it's an option strategy that basically takes a short stock position with a long call position on the same stock to mimic a long put. It's also called a synthetic long put. And essentially, an investor who has a short position in the stock purchases at the money call options on the same security that they have basically the long call option on as well. And this option is taken to protect against appreciation in the stock's price. And a synthetic put is also known as a married call or a protective call. So very much almost identical, but inverse at the same time. So you have synthetic puts and married puts. All right, guys. So now let's talk about reverse conversions. So reverse conversions are a form of arbitrage that enables options traders to profit from an overpriced put option that they could possibly even be writing, no matter what the underlying does. The trading consists of selling a put and buying a call to create a synthetic long position while shorting the underlying stock. Okay. And so all of these things that we've talked about, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 different variations of ways that they can spin this to basically manipulate, options activity against us. So what we've got here is the Overstock.com lawsuit. And we've kind of went over all the different ways that, or in terms, defining the terms that were used here. So now let's go over the lawsuit itself. Do you want to talk about this, Bigums?
Yeah, I can go ahead. Basically, so if you're looking at it right now, the highlighted things are what I went over that are basically the most important things. So as you can see, he would actually have naked shares or naked shorts, and they would remain naked over time. He would actually, there was this thing called a sham reset transaction, which would basically give the appearance that he was covering. So this is if you're on, so for this first part, this is on if you're on the regulation show. I guess I should start off with that. So this is ways that he was able to basically reset the 13-day period on the regulation show. is what was called a reset transaction. And he was able to do those by basically using these flex options and these married puts. And what he was doing is giving the impression that these calls, these FTDs, they were being covered when they clearly weren't. They were just being synthetically covered. And if you look towards the middle here, actually, if you want, I'll let you read off that middle one, the one right after. That's all the stuff in the yellow. That's basically just going over how, using these methods, they were able to reset the FTDs on the regulation show.
Yeah. So what the whole document is basically an Overstock lawsuit where they actually highlighted basically every single thing that we just covered was being used against Overstock. Okay. So we've got, flex options, buy rights, married puts, sham reset transactions. And so I'm going to read this following part off because it's pretty important. There was also an appearance of delivery of the purchase shares back to the other market maker who had never delivered them in the first place. So there was an appearance of delivery of the purchase shares back to the other market maker who had never delivered them in the first place. So they're faking on both ends when you read that, right? The market maker on that end as well. And it said, in the end, Hazan would reestablish his previous short positions, still naked, while succeeding in having a regulation show 3-day delivery clock and closing firm's eyes reset the date. So to the closing firm that's closing that transaction, it's considered basically closed and it's reset. And as settlement dates, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Keep going. I didn't go farther down.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As settlement dates approached again and again, Hazan would repeat this process until options on the original reverse conversion trade expired or were assigned, thus finally closing out the short position and eliminating the synthetic long position that the short position had hedged.
Yeah, exactly. And then for the reverse conversion, what he was using, because we didn't cover that part yet, what he was basically doing with that is he would use those to eliminate all the risks every time he was opening short positions. So then basically he could never get margin called because he had no risk associated with anything he was doing.
Basically just hiding it.
Exactly. So he was hiding it with the conversion trades. And then he was filling all of his failure to delivers with all those options that we went over. Is basically what this Overwatch lawsuit's saying.
And so this is a legal filing, obviously, right? But one of the findings, the commission found that Hazan was not acting as a bona fide market maker and violated Reg Show when executing riskless and profitable reverse conversions, what Bigham's just said, trades and related reset dates. So he was using every single type of option that we just mentioned earlier to his advantage to reset failure to deliver dates. And not only that, was making money at the same time. And so just to even elaborate even more on this, in reverse conversion trades, Hazan would sell short, right? So he'd take a short position on a hard to borrow stock. And what does that remind you of? Or threshold security stocks to a counterparty. He would also buy from that counterparty, from that same person. So the same person he's selling that short position to, he would buy a call option in that security and sell back, or not sell back, but sell to that same party also a put option in the security that they'd eliminate all associated risk with that short sell. So they're actually working that counterparty at the same time. And because all three components of the reverse conversion were priced independently, basically, he was assured an agreed upon profit. Meanwhile, the counterparty, for instance, a brokerage firm such as Goldman Sachs, or Goldman Brokerage or Merrill Brokerage, so both of them, it doesn't matter which one you want to choose, was willing to pay the price to Hazan to obtain on its books shares of the hard to borrow threshold security, which it could lend for a profit until the put and call options expired. So
BlackRock.
so you have flex options that could be extended 15 years out. You have brokerages like Goldman and you have Merrill that are paying guys that are creating synthetic shares and fake failure to deliver sham reverse conversions, basically avoiding the failure to deliver. So you have these banks that are paying these guys, okay, to take those, in the most simple term, in my opinion, fake shares and put them on their books to loan out. And then so we wonder and we look around and we say, man, where are these getting these shares to borrow? How do they keep getting 9 million shares? How do they do that? How do they do this? It kind of makes sense now if you've got these guys taking these flex options, these married puts, these buy rights, paying for them to obtain, and they put this in quotes, guys, this is like book shares or hard to borrow threshold securities, which it lends for a profit.
That's like where they're recycling the shares completely over and over between the two. They're just recycling it over and over, which is creating naked shorts, which, as you saw earlier in the thing, the naked shorts that they keep taking out, they're still naked. But they're returning these shares to these banks to be loaning back out, so they're still resharing those. So it's like they're continuously creating, a massive supply of shares and they're on paper looking like they're covering them at the same time. And this is how people say, how can there be so many synthetics right here?
Well, it's literally right in front of our face. It's like, if they're creating these things that can basically simulate, or they're synthetic shares, and then you've got these guys taking them to places like Goldman and Merrill, and Goldman and Merrill is scooping them up like King Koopa
candy.
Yeah, and then going and lending them out, and they're lending out. It's literally like it honestly, it's kind of sad in a way.
If you guys ever get a chance, sorry to cut you off.
No,
if you guys ever get a chance, because I've talked about this about 4 months ago. If you look at my Reddit, I'll post it on under the video. But I have a Reddit post. It's called the Double Dip Theory, and it's about how these banks. It's about every single thing you just talked about. I mean, I go into the deep process of all this stuff. I talk about each one of the banks you're talking about. I talk about the members of the banks that are attached to the DTCC that are allowing this, the SEC that are allowing it. I mean, it's a very good read about everything we just went over. It basically, it shows you who is able to do this on the back end on everything we're talking about. So I highly recommend giving that a read if you're watching this video.
Yeah, make sure you guys go and check that out. So we know this is something we're talking about. This is right here, factual evidence that it's been used before, I think, is the takeaway here. So outside of like defining what these things mean, understanding how they work, understanding the participants in all of this, or what it means to be a participant. This is Overstock, a stock that we've seen had the same sort of similar issues, not the same, similar issues to AMC. And you see everything that we've described has been used as a tactic against, Overstock. It was all in this litigation. So the SEC has continued to target abusive naked short selling. We hope, recently pursuing not only traders, but the firms that enabled their manipulative trading. And we can reference this, a company like Options Express, which the SEC kind of went after, which it said the brokerage firm violated regulations show, everything that we're talking about, the regulating body of all this, in connection with sham reset transactions, similar to those that we've discussed, designed to avoid delivery. Because the firm knew shares that were subject of a buy were shares of its client's account that were subject of simultaneously deep in the money calls, which be exercised and assigned so that no shares were delivered to the clearing agency. And again, we're talking about these guys taking options, possibly writing them to themselves, assigning them to themselves. I mean, it's really very difficult to kind of see, which is what we're trying to kind of navigate through right now. And as we learn it, you guys will learn it as well. But at the end of the day, so going back to how Options Express was in trouble, they engaged, and this is something they were, was legally processed in sham closeouts of its failure to deliver positions. They did not close out its FTDs by executing consecutive buy right transactions and willfully violated rules 204 and 204T. So this is another example of companies violating these rules. And so it just goes to show you that being diligent, and this is stuff that Bigums and I have even reported. We're going out, we're writing our complaints, we're requesting information, we're doing everything that we know how to do. And hopefully after this video is over, you guys will know how to do as well, to at least shed some light to make sure they're looking at these things. So the next part is we're talking about market makers and their use of OTC flex trades. And the majority of market makers are a part of ISDA.
And on top of that, if you look inside of the filing, the reason that this Hassan guy was able to do all of these things is because the market makers are the ones who have access to these. You had to be a bona fide market maker to be able to have access to these, which in that file it says he wasn't a bona fide market maker, which is how they caught them, which tells you that certain market makers have the ability to legally do this. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, and people that at least have watched my videos will know that we've talked about the short exempt rules and how they abuse the hell out of that. Basically, bona fide market maker status is like it's a hall pass. It's the best way to put it. It's the most simple way to put it.
You don't have to locate before you find a share, fill an order. You can fill it before you have a share on hand. I mean, it's just crazy what they're allowed to do as a market maker.
And so, and there's a lot of people, again, this is proof that people have been caught abusing, acting as market makers, but being bad actors. So
we don't even know what the market makers themselves are capable of or what they are doing.
Well, that's true. That's what I'm saying. We're talking about people that have actually gotten caught here. So anyways, these market makers that are part of ISDA, they can write these flex options with an ISDA agreement with any other counterparty that they choose. And it would not need to go through an exchange, right? And so there's a little bit of a source here. Among numerous other findings, the commission found, and this is jumping back to Overstock.
Oh yeah, I didn't see this.
Yeah, found Hassan was not acting. No, it doesn't. It buys right into what we're talking about. So among numerous other findings, the commission found Hassan was not acting as a bona fide market maker and violated Regulation Show when executing riskless and profitable reverse conversion trades and related reset trades. So this guy, Hassan, pretty much doing everything that we fucking hate. Sorry for the language, but I mean, that's the truth. And so and back to Bigum's point, what he just kind of said, bona fide market makers, so the actual real market makers, right? And we all know who they are, or most of them can actually have the authority to perform in everything that we've discussed previously in this video. So you have a guy that only got caught and got in trouble for this because he was not a market maker.
Exactly. So we just want to stress that out. They're allowed to do this.
And so now let's break into the meat and potatoes that you guys are wanting to know, the failure to delivers and the reg show violation. So as you guys have kind of seen throughout the entirety of the video, they use sham resets to basically get out of failure to delivers. They're still naked, but they give the appearance of covering, right? And when we say covering, that doesn't mean buying the share from the market and the price is going up. No, to the regulatory bodies, it looks like a covered transaction. But at the end of the day, it's really just a borrow on a borrow on a borrow on a borrow, if that makes sense. All right. So they appear to reset the 13-day clock, even when we seen that AMC was on the threshold list, and everybody was getting super excited about that, myself included. Until
We don't even know if they really even did the reset. They could have done those sham closeouts to literally just get off it.
Yeah, I literally don't think that they actually. I literally think that is what they did.
I did
So
too.
it was closeouts that appeared that they had closed out, and that really, I guess, the main focus is this is just extending the inevitable, right? But
Exactly.
the goal of this is just to get you guys educated on the ways that they can use to kind of, so when we see things that might really excite us, to understand that these guys have a lot of tools in the arsenal, right? So if
And
we're
don't get let down on things that you get excited about, because like he said, they have every single one of these little tools, and one of their main thing is to psychologically screw with us so we get scared into selling.
So market makers can actually actively participate in sham closeouts, and we're going to go into actually how they can make money from them. Do you actually want to cover this part, Bickums? I feel like I've been talking for a little while.
No, you're good, man. Go ahead.
All right.
You got that radio voice,
Yeah. So in this example, okay, so we're talking about the synthetic positions, whether the multiple different option styles that we talked about earlier that they could be using to, do nefarious shit with. So let's just say in the example, the synthetic position is trading for $50, which is simply the call price and the put price plus the strike price. The actual shares are trading for $51. So the trader A has effectively sold shares for $1 more than it paid for them in a simultaneous transaction. Each time the trade is made, trader A is earning $100 profit, assuming that trader A is not being charged a fee to borrow shares to deliver on the short sell, and the clearing firm does not affect a buy-in against the trader to close out a failure to deliver position. So the last two parts are kind of interesting because they're not really ever reporting failure to deliver positions because of everything that we described. So they're not getting fined on that end because they do sham closeouts, reverse conversions, flex options to avoid having failure to deliver positions. But then we talk about the fee to borrow shares. As a market maker, you might even be able to avoid those borrow fees. So it could be just, again, going back to the Overstock legal document, riskless trading, which is, in its form it's nefarious as shit. It's definitely not legit. So in this case, the trade was made 100 times, so the profit would be $10,000. The sole reason for the disparity between the actual shares and the synthetic position is the fact that the shares of XYZ are hard to borrow, meaning they don't exist. So they're creating these things, these failure to deliver positions, hiding failure to delivers with these complex option variations, and they're actually profiting from it. They're making money by doing this, by hiding failure to delivers. And so, well, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Biggums?
No, yeah, you nailed it right on, man.
Okay. So now let's talk about the reset clock, which is the second transaction part of this. Assuming that XYZ security, right, which you referenced above earlier, is a hard to borrow security, and that trader A or its broker dealer is unable, or in parentheses, unwilling to borrow shares to make delivery on the short sale of actual shares. So unwilling or unable. So that's a key word. Unable and unwilling are two different things. Unable might mean they don't have the shares to make delivery. So that's an important part that I want you guys to realize. The short sell may result in a failed to deliver position at trader A's clearing firm. Rather than paying the borrowing fee on the shares to make delivery or unwinding the position by purchasing the shares in the market, trader A might next enter a trade that gives the appearance of satisfying the broker-dealer's closeout requirement, but in reality allows trader A to maintain its short position without ever delivering on the short sell. Most often, this is done through the use of a buy-right trade, but also may be done by a married put and the incorporation and use of flex options. So, what's interesting about this, guys, though, again, is that it's all about satisfying the broker dealer requirement, which is giving the appearance, the illusion of these closeouts, right? And at the end of the day, after this is all said and done, it's good. It's all above the books. They are able to keep their short position. They don't have to go and unwind their position by actually purchasing the shares in the market, which is what we're all sitting around like a campfire, all waiting like as a bunch of apes, like, oh, failure delivers, or, you know, they're coming right now. And then we're all waiting there. They're avoiding them through this. They're resetting the clock on failure delivers. And the crazy thing is, when they're resetting the clock on these FTDs, they're creating more FTDs.
Exactly. No matter what, so just so we can make this clear too, so anyone watching, like, we don't want you to get discouraged thinking, oh, you know, this is going to go on forever. They can keep doing this. They're still borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, but you guys got to realize they're borrowing from the richest of the rich, and they're rich, man. They don't like to have their money not in their possession. So, you know, for a while, yeah, they might go ahead and keep rubbing these guys back and keep doing these trades and these deals. But rich people don't give their money out forever. They're going to want it, and he's going to want to make his money quick. So don't think this is going to go on forever. It's just what they could be doing.
Yeah, and so just to go over real quickly, we talked about before we even released this information was like, hey, you know, what could be the impact of this? Because the goal is to educate and to not scare. And again, all of this is extending the timeline. And we don't know when the person that's loaning out these shares, again, they're all borrowed, might say, hey, I want my shares right now. I mean, that could happen whenever. Nobody's got a crystal ball. And at the end of the day, you know, there's going to be somebody that's going to be held accountable for this. These shares are going to need to come back to their original owner.
And if we have to wait, you guys, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. The longer you wait, the more the spring gets loaded, and when it does pop, the more we should make, because he's got that many more shares borrowed.
Well, like I said, it's really, you guys need to think of this like them picking up a golden shovel, or the best shovel in the world. Like they had Einstein develop the best shovel ever, and it auto digs into the ground because they're digging them a hole at a rapid pace.
Exactly.
So, next, we are going to get into some actual flex reports that came through and how we made some connections.
All right, so now let's go over the attached for flex report here. So if you guys look on his screen, you can see these numbers, and this is from the OCC's website. You can actually look at the flex options traded that day. And as you can see here, we have the IMW, which obviously is the number one FTD for AMC. And if you look here, I don't know if you guys remember back in June, right after we bumped up, but can you want to scroll down a little bit on your screen? Those obviously, see, this is how we feel they're attacking the ETFs. Mainly because everybody's watching, you know, what's going on with the ETFs, what's going on with, we believe it's these flex options, because as you're seeing, they're taking these flex options out on those ETFs like mad.
And we're looking here at the June 2nd, our run up.
Yep, exactly. That one's June 2nd. And then on the bottom, you'll see June 2nd for AMC. And you'll notice that there's a $62 call option. And I don't know if you guys remember, right after we had that run up, we kept going at 62. We kept hitting that 62. We kept hitting 62, and we just couldn't break it. We couldn't break it. Well, it's kind of weird how that 62, a giant flex option, was pulled up for 62, and we just suddenly couldn't break that fucking number. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear. But
that's okay. It's an adult stream, anyways.
Yeah, so we believe that by by looking at this data here and looking at the graphs and the times and then looking at the ETFs, that these methods are clearly being used on AMC and on AMC's ETFs.
So we're rounding this out, and so I know it was a long video, guys, but let's cover over, I guess, give you guys, for the people that might skip to the end here, the TLDR, right? And so by looking at previous lawsuits, we were able to identify how, number one, they're able to suppress FTDs, failure to deliver. So those numbers that we get really excited about, they're able to suppress them. That doesn't mean that there is not going to be at one point the original lender to be like, hey, I need my shares back. It might be when he's in trouble and needs the shares. You know what I mean? Because everybody's over leveraged in this. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Let me add one thing here to that quick too. So also, this is a way that they could be hiding short interest, as you guys are seeing. It looks like they are, like the Ortex data could keep being wrong. If you look at what we were saying before, they could be opening these up, and then they do sham closeouts to make it look like they're covering the short. But it said it before in the Overstock that his shorts remained naked. So that could be another way why Ortex's data is wrong because of these.
Right. Again, the appearance of a closeout. I mean, that's like
Exactly.
the key frame. This could be the way that they're kicking the can every time we think they're going to have to cover failure delivers. ISDA, as we saw in the Big Short, are the kings of the market. And they're the ones that are participating in the majority of the larger flex options. You need to have a massive amount of capital to even sit at the table. OTC flex options are not sent to the CBOE, as you can see in the flow chart that we listed above. They are sent to ISDA because of what is known as an ISDA agreement. This is a signed agreement between two parties. This agreement is not sent to an exchange or any exchange, period. Okay? So again, not listed on exchange. You're not going to see this. We're able to get data if we request it, which we have. Flex options have no position limit, so they can have a super amount of contracts per option play. In the lawsuit, we learned that bona fide market makers have the ability to participate in all the nefarious option activity that we've seen. And that doesn't mean that every time there's a buy right or a married put that it's used for nefarious reasons. But in this case, we are leaning towards the fact that it could be in regarding to AMC, right? So they use flex options, buy rights, and married puts to create synthetics that are able to suppress failure delivers. And by not filling these failure FTDs, this is a way that they can also suppress price action, right? When we're expecting to see high numbers when the cycle of FTDs is due, right? We learned about sham resets and how they're able to kind of reset these failure delivers, and then also sham closeouts to fill positions that they never held in the first place, and also we're able to profit from as well. And as we get deeper into this, and because we're not done, we just are on the tip of the iceberg, we will release more information, as it becomes available, really. And so with that, Bigums, I think that's pretty much the end of this. Do you want to kind of give your quick 30-second breakdown of what we kind of went over?
Yeah, sure, quick. So basically, if you are trading on this ISDA platform or whatever you want to call it, you have the ability to take these kind of options out. And you, like you said, you can skip SIBO, you can skip the exchanges, and you do just agreements on the side, paper agreements, contractual agreements, which obviously, like we said too, we don't know if these even affect volume in a day on a stock market, because imagine if they traded 1 million shares, 2 million, 3 million shares on these contracts, we don't even know if they're even affecting volume. But yes, this is the sham resets. This is all this. So every time that we're getting close to these FTDs, like you said, if it doesn't work out, this could be what they're doing. So don't get discouraged if it doesn't go up, because like we said with all this whole video, they are borrowing and borrowing and borrowing still. They still have to pay it back. They still have to pay all this back.
Yeah, and so with that, guys, I really do. I hope you enjoyed the information. I mean, we'll close it out here because I know it was a lot. So just understand, again, if you're expecting major movement from failure delivers, they have a complete arsenal of ways that they can kind of avoid those. But just remember, key point, they're borrowing from somebody that eventually is going to want them back. So
this is also how they can hide shorts, people.
Yeah.
Also, how they can hide short interest.
And with that being said, we'll close out the video here. So you guys already know you're here on my channel. Make sure that if you enjoy the information, you follow, like, and subscribe. But also make sure, because I could not have done this without my boy Bigum. So make sure you'll see it here in the DD. You follow his YouTube. He's going to be releasing this video as well, and you can expect videos in the future from him. He really is quite a king when it comes to due diligence in terms of AMC. And then obviously you can search for him on AMC Bigums, or AC Bigums is his actual Twitter. So make sure you guys go and follow him. And with that being said, I love you guys all a long time, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Yep.